An Irish independent digital subscription doesn't just get you the news. It gets you the best of Ireland's stories all in one place. Whether it's the best of politics, business, sport, entertainment or lifestyle. Get it all for just €4 a month for 12 months when you first subscribe. Visit independent.ie/subscribe today. Irish Independent. Terms and conditions apply. Cancel anytime.
Well, it's here at last. The Football Rules Committee has worked incredibly hard, it must be said, over many, many months. And we're all going to sit down Friday evening and Saturday evening and see what we get, make up our minds. So I'm happy to say James Horan, very much a big part of that Football Rules Committee, and obviously just one of the smartest managers of the last 15, 20 years or so, is going to join us and give us an insight into how the committee reached these 7 rules. And then Mike Quirke, also incredibly thoughtful GA mind, and crucially was involved at the coalface right up until and including this season with Kerry, is going to join us and give us his take on the state of the game and what he makes of these rules. And well, we'll see what they have to say. Ronan's still here. Hello.
Hi, Joe.
I think of Kerry this year, that Derry game, that semi-final, I think was one of the great disappointments, because it was preordained as going to be a bad game, and then it was a bad game, and you just thought, God, this isn't working. So even curious to see what Mike has to say about that experience.
100%, and him having coming fresh from coaching one of the preeminent talents of all time, if not the, like David Clifford, in that game in particular, like stationed on the halfway line for the majority of it. And, you know, I like even terms, and you hear them often about forward players cheating by not running back with their marker every single time. You know what I mean? Like players like that should be is freed up, letting them off too loosely, but at least the game should try and amplify their skill set rather than neutralise it a little bit. And that's kind of the way the current game has gone. So at least there's no excuse for David Clifford not to be one of those 3, just to complete that example.
Well, I would think so. We're not going to dwell here because in James and Mike, we have 2 brilliant GA minds. What we will do is just let you know that it's Leinster Connacht at 6 o'clock on Friday, followed by Munster Ulster at 8 o'clock. Both of those games are on TG Cahir. And then in effect, we'll have a Railway Cup final between the winners. Saturday evening, 7:30. That game is an RT2. And the curtain raiser between the 2 losers from Friday. The 2 losers.
2 losers, yeah. Don't even bother watching that one.
The 2 losing provinces, I should say. That curtain raiser is 5:30. I think that's an RT News. It's certainly not an RT2, but the final, in effect, will be an RT2. And the 2 games on Friday, TG Cahir, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock Friday. 7:30, the main event on Saturday, curtain raiser, 5:30. Tickets are €15, and they will give you entry to all 4 games, which is very generous. I mean, to be fair, that's great. They'll probably get good crowds in, you think? No?
Oh yeah, this is like Christmas Eve, I think. In GA, like, people seemingly more excited about these games than 90% of the football championship. And I'm not even exaggerating, I don't think.
Maybe you're right, yeah. Pork Joyce is managing Connacht, John Cleary is managing Munster, Desi Dolan, Leinster, and Kieran Donnelly, Ulster, and there are a raft of big-name players involved, which I think points to the extent to which the seriousness of the Football Rules Committee has been embraced by the GAA playing community. They recognise that Jim Gavin and team are the real deal here. The 7 rules, just before we bring in James and Mike, throw-ins, it's a 1v1 situation and the 2 other midfielders wait on the sideline just so we don't get that kind of unsightly tussling. The second rule, kick-outs from the 20-metre line must go beyond the 40-metre arc. There are now restrictions on the goalkeeper. He can get a pass. And I am saying he deliberately, by the way, not to exclude female players, but obviously they're not part of this ladies football, not passing these rules. He can get a pass inside his own 13-metre rectangle, but within his entire half elsewhere, you can't pass it to the goalkeeper. Once he gets into opposition half, then he can get involved. But this business, if you imagine, of say on his own 65 or his own 45, where he's basically just there as a constant option for his teammates to check back and restart play, that's going. They want that gone. 2 points for a shot outside the 40-metre arc. So there's going to be new paints, obviously paint lines drawn on the pitch. 2 points outside the 40-metre arc, and goals are worth 4 points. And then I think one of the biggies, each team has to have 3 players in the opposition half at all times, meaning a maximum of 11 outfield players in your own half to try and defend. The solo and go, it's like a quick free. You can tap it to yourself, akin to a tap and go in rugby. And then the advanced mark kick pass from outside 45 metres caught inside the 20 metre, and also has the added advantage of having an advantage rule. So you can catch it and you can head towards goal and maybe nothing comes of it. You'll then get the chance to come back and just tap over your point. So they're really encouraging players to turn and if there's a goal on, to go for it, and they'll still get the safety net of the mark. That's about it. Like or hate any of them? Like them all? Hate them all?
In principle, I think the 3-3 is like,
the biggie.
People have been clamouring for that, and maybe is that the centrepiece and the other stuff emanating from there? It'll be interesting to see. And Jim Gavin has been keen to make the point, and as have other members of the F4C, that they are, at least some of them, interdependent.
All right. James Horan, Mike Quirke. So very happy to say we're joined by James Horan and Mike Quirke, as mentioned. Gents, great to have you on. Good to talk to you both.
Are you, Joe? Good to talk to you.
Well, Mike, welcome back. So look, this is great. James and you, we have somebody who's been at the coalface, obviously, with Mayo, and now you're very much part of the Football Rules Committee. And then Mike, just so recently out of the game and out of a coaching ticket. So really looking forward to getting your perspective on all of this. The Football Rules Committee experience, James, I was talking to somebody vaguely associated with it who is genuinely wondering if Jim Gavin does sleep.
It's busy. Yeah, it's busy. Jim's sleeping patterns, I'm not sure of, Joe. I can ask him and can go back to you, but it's full on for sure, as it needs to be. I suppose we're trying to review a lot of things and trying to get as much right as we can. We've had 7,000 or 8,000 comments from a public survey. There's a lot of different forums, a lot of different stakeholders that we're just trying to put it all into the mix, and from that try and get some rules that will help the game, make the game more exciting.
It's quite a daunting thing, because the game is so precious to all of us, and this is a historic moment potentially if these rules are all passed. And to state the bloody obvious, you don't want to get it wrong. I mean, it's a huge responsibility. I presume you felt that.
Yeah, well, it's going to be all Jim Gavin's fault if it goes wrong. But let's get that.
It's Jim Gavin's committee.
Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's funny going around, because we've gone around to a lot of different stakeholders and had a huge amount of meetings and different workshops, etc. And the thing that jumps out is absolutely the love of the game. There's a deep-rooted love of Gaelic football, and the game that it is and what it means, and I suppose everything around it is so deeply ingrained in Irish society. So that's the key thing you get. There's a few things wrong, like with every game. There's a few things wrong for sure. We probably left it a bit long, maybe as an organisation, but now we're trying to have a look at it, see what needs to be done. That'll change the game a little bit. And I think, Joe, one of the key things that we set out was sort of having some guiding principles, and I think they were really helpful for us as a group. And it was really, to make the game better to play and watch, right? I think, as an overarching sort of statement or North Star, I think that was really important. But there was sort of 3 different categories underneath that I think helped us along the way as more and more input came in, and that we wanted a game that rewards skill and risk. And I think, if you think the game at the moment, is there enough risk in our game? So I think that was a really good, encourages forward momentum and progression was the second one. And the third one was a game of contests. And there were sort of 3, as I said, guiding principles that we used that helped us. So any information or any ideas that we came with, we sort of measure them against those to see would it fit into those categories, would it move the game forward that way. And the game of contests was a really interesting one, Joe, and that could be one-on-one defending, it could be one-on-one attacking, taking someone on, it can be competing for the ball. As opposed to maybe what we see at the moment is a huge amount of uncontested play. So there were the 3 things that really helped us, I suppose, gave us a good steer as we went through all the info.
Mike Quirke, we haven't spoken. I have no sense of what you felt about the health of Gaelic football before the possibility of these rules. I've no sense of what you make of the rules that we're about to see unfurled this weekend. So talk to us.
I'm very excited. I think I'm genuinely, for the first time in a long time, I'm really excited by the prospect of I'm going up to Croke Park tomorrow, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the games and how they unfold. I think like to start at the beginning, like the whole process, and I'd be interested to hear, James, who actually designed the process by which he followed, because I think the whole process has given the GA community in Ireland the ownership of these rules. Like everybody now, whether you're from the southest part of Kerry or the northest part of Donegal and everybody in between, has felt that they had an opportunity to contribute in some way. And James talks about the surveys or people, coming together in workshops. So everybody has had an opportunity. This isn't just 4 or 5 people in Croke Park who've, randomly come up with these rules. They've involved everybody. They've invested everybody now in it. So we're all feeling that we're a part of these rules. So their success or failure, while you joke that maybe it's, Jim Gavin's committee or whatever, we're all kind of invested in them. And I think it's after giving a real kind of energy to the Gaelic football community again to see, like, can these be a real improvement in the game? And like your first question, Joe, was like the game needs help. Like the game needs help. I've just spent a couple of years with some of the best footballers in the country, and at times in training, you're looking at training because you have to go through all these routines against 15 men behind the ball, and it's very frustrating. It's very difficult. It's very time consuming. Time that you can now invest into other aspects of the game, like you're talking about, that the reward skill and reward those other parts of it. I'm really excited, really delighted with the process so far, and eagerly looking forward to see how they play out tomorrow.
Yes, okay, because I felt an interesting example. Well, you were directly involved in Kerry against Derry this year, and I felt like that was just tough going as a neutral. Of course, it had a tension to it if you're from Kerry or Derry, but just me sitting down to watch a game, it's really hard going. And yet I understood Jack O'Connor talking afterwards about, well, the tactics we had to employ. We had to be very wary and very careful and not leave ourselves open. And so we had to play the game on certain terms. And you're like, okay, it made sense and you won, so it's all fine. But I mean, it's a bit miserable as well.
It is a little bit miserable. But and again, I think these hopefully these rules will negate some of that miserable stuff. And look, ultimately, Jack O'Connor or anybody else who's involved in an inter-county team, again, as it's repeatedly said, isn't in the business of entertainment. It's about getting results and progressing in the competition, and that obviously has to be understood as well. But at the same time, we came away from that Derry game, and you're looking at it saying, of course, we got a result, but we knew it wasn't good enough. It wasn't to what we wanted to aspire to be as a footballing team or as a footballing county. But at times, you have to play the situation that's in front of you, as ugly and as depressing as that might be at times. The result is the most important thing in those occasions. But I think now this structure and how they play out, I think this will allow you to go at the game in a totally, totally different way that is going to re-energise the entire sport in the country.
Yes. So James, 7 rules. We mentioned them obviously at the top of the podcast, so we don't need to go through them again. I presume, and this is where things can get terribly complicated as you guys are trying to figure all these possibilities out. I presume, James, these 7 rules are interdependent. They are essentially a package, and that were Congress to say, well, we'll take 2 of them and we'll leave the other 5. That's a really bad result here, because not least because you don't actually know how 2 in isolation may affect the game.
Yeah, I suppose you'd like those 7 core enhancements. The aim would be that they would go through. A lot of them are interdependent, yes.
Okay.
Some of them are not. If only the three up, 3 back, say that one only went through, that would still have a significant impact on the game, on how the game is played. So there is, and we throughout the sandbox process, we trial some of the core ones in isolation to see. So the 3v3, we did that for a couple of quarters, to see how that on its own would work and what significant impact it have. So we sort of did some testing as much as you could in 1, 2, 3, or 4 of those getting through. But we'd hope that those 7 core ones would get through, and the motions behind those. So
and what are your other ones, as a matter of interest? If to ask a thoroughly stupid question, but if I gave you 3 that you'd really love to see get through and you feel would be most impactful, leaving 3 up, certainly one. What other ones do you think are really important?
Yeah, I think the goalkeeper one. Where you can only pass your goalkeeper when you get the ball in the small, in the rectangle, and the goalkeeper's in it, or then when he's outside in the opposition half. I think that makes a significant change. So the cornerback that gets the ball now, he can't just turn around and go back and pass it to the goalkeeper. He's got to drive forward. So it starts a progression right in the full back line and drives up the field. That's it. That's a key one. The one for the momentum of the game is the solo and go. I was at the Connacht trials on Tuesday night. The solo and goal was used on multiple occasions, and the tempo and pace that it added to the game was significant. So that with those ones with the 3 and 3 to me are really, really significant. They're the top end of those 7.
Interesting.
And make a difference.
Mike, a question for you, and James, I want to get your thoughts on this as well. Like, I think what you've done here is phenomenal, by the way, and so I'm devil's advocating more than giving my own opinion. But I suppose a legitimate concern here is these look great on paper, and the Sandbox games and the Railway Cup games that will be on television this weekend, Mike, they'll have a certain quality to them. And by that I mean they will not be as intense as an All-Ireland football semi-final. And one of the reasons we enjoy National League games is because that intensity drops a touch, spoiling tactics go down, and there's just a little bit more freedom. And so, like there'll be borderline, maybe I'm wrong, but I wouldn't be shocked if on Friday there is sort of a kind of a joyous atmosphere, and lads will be saying, do you know what, I'll have a pop at that 2-pointer from outside the 40 here, why not? And geez, you might even have some fella patting his marker on the backside if he gets a really good score. That intensity that leads to spoiling tactics and nerves won't be present. So we may get a false reading here. There's not much we can do about that. I mean, the Rules Committee can't suddenly say ahead of an All-Ireland final, let's just spring these rules on everybody and see what they're like in the white heat of championship. But it is an aspect to this performance that what we're watching on Friday and Saturday, there is a falseness to it versus championship knockout and when you guys have to beat Derry at all costs.
Yeah, there is, but I that's why the first thing I mentioned was the quality of the actual procedure that this committee has gone through to take every step possibly that you can get to Congress here in a position where everybody's going to see these rules in action, albeit in a less intense, less competitive environment. But we've never had that opportunity before. We've made rule changes before that nobody has been involved in any consultation. We haven't seen them in action, and suddenly there's a vote in Congress and it either passes or it doesn't pass. Now we're getting extensive opportunity to be involved, to look at, fair enough, a lower level, and now have the opportunity to make a decision on, I think these can really help the game. I don't think there's anything we can do about that really, except really look at them and say, how is this kick out going to work? How is the solo and go going to work? How is the forward advantage mark where it's kicked outside and he wins it inside? How are defenders going to actually manage that situation? I think it just gives us a really, really good insight as best they possibly can. And I see that Eamon Fitz and Jim Gavin are actually doing the co-commentary in some of the games. So the lads are everybody's been rolled out here to win the hearts and minds of the public, because ultimately when this gets to Congress, if the popular opinion is these rules are fantastic and they're going to give a real positive push to the game, well then you'd expect that'll help decision makers in Congress. And I think, again, I don't think they can do much more or set it up any better than it has been,
No, I don't think you could have done much more, James. And yet you take my point, do you?
Oh, 100%, Joe. And we were very conscious of that right the way through the process. So, we started off the Sandbox games with 8v8s, and they're only a proof of concept really as much as anything else, to prove that this rule would actually function okay, or whatever. So the initial Sandbox games were that way, and then we got higher and higher quality as we got more and more players through it. And we ended up having Gavin playing Kildare two weeks ago, which was a cracking game. And obviously the provincial trials have gone on over the last number of weeks. So again, adding to the caliber of player that's been involved and seeing how they are. So they're functionally tested. But, before every one of those Sandbox games, we've sat down with the players and gone through an hour overview of the rules and how they work and the rationale behind them and what we think they can bring to the game. So players are going out with that in mind. So yours and Mike's point is very valid. That's going to be a carnival atmosphere almost in the game. There's a lot of freedom to it. And, we had Daniel Flynn from Kildare playing at number 6 for Kildare against Gavin the last day. And to say that he stole the show in the last 20 minutes, run up and down, so it's all that kind of thing was an experiment. Gavin were experimenting as well. So it was great to see. But I think it's often important to remember that 2025 League and Championship is a trial. That's the true test. There has to be a consequence to a game to really pressure test these enhancements.
And
without question.
Yeah, and does any part of you, you've been there and you know what these managers are putting into the job and how important it is for the players, and there could be great players in their last season or two. Some of you must feel a touch queasy about inflicting something on them, and maybe it doesn't quite work, and it's very important to them. I guess the mid-season review after league, if something's not working, then you have a better shot maybe of adjusting before championship is a key point.
If something's fundamentally wrong, after the league we have an opportunity to address it, and then it goes through the championship, and then the special congress next October, November, whatever. These will be put into law, if you like. So 2025 is a try. So Mike is right, as much as we possibly could, and like. You'd Michael Murphy, Malachy, Colm Collins, you'd Eamon Fitz, you'd Shane Flanagan, you'd brilliant guys on this committee, and every line that was put out, we trashed it to death in every possible bit of experience that we've had. We tested it, we went through every scenario that we've ever come across that would be related to that, and how it would or wouldn't work. So the unintended consequences, as much as it's humanly possible, we've tested them out. But until there's a relegation place, or you've lost the first 3 games in the National League, and you're the 4th game, and everyone's screaming at you. That's when we really see how some of these works, or how managers or coaches take them. So, but that's exciting. We've tried to put in reasonable ones that are progressive for the game, that represent some of the core fundamental values from previous years, but still allow the creativity and innovation that's with modern day football as well. So we try to make sure that scope is in there. So let's see how it plays out. But as Mike said, like, can't wait to shoot up to Dublin tomorrow and over the weekend and see what's what. And we've a lot of high caliber players on
it's amazing.
Due, so I think it'd be a cracking weekend.
For sure. I think the caliber of players and managers involved, there is a seriousness about this project that they've all recognised, and that's why they're involved, and I think that's a credit to all you guys. Did you not get a call to do commentary? What's the story here?
Are you talking to Mike or me?
You. Jim Gavin and Eamon Fitz are doing commentary.
I'd be happy filling the water bottles now tomorrow, or doing whatever. But as I said, I was over at the Connacht trials, and the pace of the first 2 quarters in the game was phenomenal.
Yeah, so that's encouraging. Yeah, that's encouraging.
It was absolutely. I've never and my philosophy of football should be high paced, progressive, but I haven't seen it like this. Like, you had the best players in Connacht there, and it was just great to watch.
Yeah.
But again, with that, Mike, Joe, I think it's important, and my feedback, and I chatted to a lot of the players after. My feedback: the pace was excellent, the movement, the forward progression was great, but there was less tackles, or there was less physicality in one way. So it's about how that all balances out to make sure that we get, you don't want to take physicality, or you don't want to take a certain element out of the game that we all love. So, but look, it was very exciting to see and get the players' feedback, and they're excited too about the weekend. And
from a coaching aspect, Mike, that is so interesting about the lack of physicality suddenly, and these unintended consequences are going to come up. There also might be a huge coaching interpretation of these rules. There will be 100% managers who are still saying to their players next year, if any of you even dream of a solo tap and go, or dream of a shot from outside the 40, you're out of the team. Don't you dare. And yet others are going to embrace it and exploit it. I'm telling you.
No, they won't.
Okay. I'm going to ring both of you after the first round of Ulster next year, and you can both apologise to me.
No. See, that is not the kind of attitude that we want, Joe. Like, I'm looking at the way the NBA changed when the 3-point line actually became something that teams focused on. Like, you had all these really smart people looking at the analytics of the game who said it's actually way more valuable for us to take more 3-point shots than it is 2-point shots. The NBA was a league that was dominated by big men all the way through up to the 90s and 2000s. And suddenly guys like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and all these really good shooters came along. And the NBA is fundamentally changed because of the 3-point line. I'm not suggesting that that's going to happen in Gaelic games, but I'm sure you're going to have coaches saying, how many shots can we get off from 2-point range here that will actually lead to a higher score at the end of the game? Like, you see, that kind of an attitude there where coaches are looking to see, how can I break this down and become defensively solid? I think this whole idea is about being, how can we be more progressive? How can we get these kickouts away so fast that the other team don't have a chance to get 11 bodies?
I take your point, but that's where aspiration and our dreams for the game meets hard, cold reality, and I'm a coach and I want to win.
Yeah, but I still think these rules and the structure that this will give you by having to keep 3 bodies up top at all times, which means teams can only defend with a maximum of 11 outfield players, it has to change that mentality, because you can't get 15 guys inside your 45-yard line and just try and close up shop and commit fouls. And so it fundamentally changes the game as we know it. And again, until you see a high-stakes game where coaches are trying to push the barrier or players are trying to do stuff. But again, I think we need people that are going to be looking the other side of it as well. And I think we're going to have that.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Joe, just to your point, I'd nearly argue the opposite, Joe. That if I was a coach and there was a solo and go opportunity, because you remember you got 3 up, and I didn't take it, I'd kill him.
Yeah, but you governed over one of the great half-back lines of all time and one of the great running teams of all. I'm not worried about you. I'm not worried about you. But actually, that's a good example of the interdependency. Mike raised the point there. Just the sheer physics of 11 in your own half, 11 defenders in your own half, but crucially, it meets the 2 points from outside the 40. So now physically, your physics dictate that you're giving something away somewhere. There's either space inside or there's space on the outside, and you get your shooters on the outside, or you can thread Colin Cooper-esque little passes into somebody's hands on the full forward line. And that's where I'm sure you'd be disappointed if one of those is passed and the other isn't, because they work in tandem.
Yeah, absolutely. The game, I think Mike has captured it well there. The 3-up structure, well, a lot of people wouldn't agree with it, and you'd prefer if you didn't have to put in sort of restrictive rules like that. But where the game are, it needs that 20,000 goals to jumpstart it into a more progressive game. So it makes a significant difference, because you have 3. Like again, the game on Tuesday night, as soon as there was a turnover in defence, there was a lot of driven kicks into the 3 up front, because it's 3 and 3, and if you have a fast mover up there, the probabilities he's going to win that. But the support runs then from deep couldn't get there in time. So the ball, it was just very interesting to see how the whole dynamic was changing, the way players were thinking about it. And by the end of the game, you had guys going earlier on their support runs to make sure they got there. So it will fundamentally sort of change the mindset, I'd say, of coaches and players and how to play the game.
We'll see across the 2 days, of course. I'm just curious. Have there been instances where, to let's paint a picture here and make it more vivid to imagine it, David Clifford is one of the 3 in opposition half, and O'Buglik wins the ball deep in his own half, and he punts a lovely little bouncing ball up to Clifford, who's running deep to get it, and actually, oh crap, the halfway line is coming into view, and I'm going to meet that halfway line before I meet the ball. And obviously be a farcical situation if Clifford, with his man behind him, suddenly had to roadrunner style stop on the halfway line and wait for ball. Has that happened much?
It's the first thing that comes into our head, and I say we debated that point more than any other point.
Right.
That for the 3-3, you can't have a cornerback intercepts it, as you say, and he's running out, and you can't have a corner forward that's chasing, stop on the halfway line, all this kind of stuff. It hasn't really happened across the 7 games. It's funny. We started off the 3-up, 3-bind on the 45-metre line on each side. It didn't work because there was a dead man zone in the middle between the 45s. Then we went with the 65s. That didn't really work either, because there was still that area in the middle. But it's the halfway line. So if you think of that, there's very rarely you're going to have that scenario where he's going out. And if you have a player at the far side quick enough, he can just step in if he sees David Clifford coming out. So there'll be 3 up there. So players, like, these are smart guys that we're talking about. Some of the questions that we've got from the players, they're really, really smart. They're really investigating the rules. So I don't see it as an issue, even though it's the first thing people think of when they hear about the 3-3. It hasn't really been an issue. Players are very quick to adapt to it.
Mike, did you have any questions about the rules that had struck you that you wanted to?
Just on that one, Joe, even looking at it, like we were talking about it, saying, like, you will find teams that are looking to really be more progressive here will actually play a 4th guy. We'll get another guy who is covering that gap, who can come outside and get on ball and be that link guy, because the distance obviously between the half back line now and your 3 guys up is going to be great. And like James's point about the support run is going to be, it's a longer run, it's a tougher run to get up and down the pitch. So I think you see, this is the point, like where you're taking that little bit more pessimistic view of seeing how coaches are going to, break away. I think you can see coaches here saying, if I get a fourth guy up there who is staying in touch with these fellas, who can come over back to halfway line, who can be that link guy, who can get that extra pass and play it inside. Like I think the options here for teams to be positive and progressive. I think this is the nudge that the game needed, and I like even the kick out one. I love the idea of the kick out one. Nothing drives me more crazy than seeing a goalkeeper come out running to the ball in the 21, and maybe the referee stopping him because there's another ball on the pitch or something. Now he can kick the ball whether there's guys behind him or not, and get it outside that 40. And I just think the pace of the game now, your fitness stuff, your high speed running, like guys like aerobic capacity and anaerobic capacity is going to be really demanding for this new game. I think you're gonna see those kind of numbers jump up. I don't know if you did anything with the GPS stuff, James, or had a look.
Yeah, we did. It's an interesting one. We'll have to see it throughout the National League, but there will be more kicking in the game.
Yeah,
there will be more. In transition, the famous transition, there will be a lot of high speed running there for sure. But say the three that are staying up, if there's interchange between the areas, it might bring down. There will be more running, but if you balance it right throughout, moving the players around, the three that are waiting back, maybe they come into the sort of midfield a bit more or whatever it is. Right. It might sort of net balance itself out. We'll have to wait and see on that. One of the things we put into the interim report as well is a recommendation for next year is on interchange, because you're right, there may be an awful lot more running at this. The ball might be in play more time than what the game traditionally was. So that again might have impact on players and injury rates, etc. So we needed to put that in, that the potential next year or the year after we brought in the council interchange where players can roll on, roll off, depending on things. So we need to look at those things as we go through.
Are you getting angry anonymous letters from goalkeepers, or what's been the reaction there?
No. There was definitely an edge in some of the conversations. The few stakeholder groups I had, I got fairly pinned by the goalkeepers. They're first out of the blocks. Let's put it like that. Yeah. But when you go through it, that rule in particular is one where we tried to balance everything. We wanted to keep the creativity that the keepers bring.
Yeah. So
you still can overload in the attacking half. That keeper can go up there. He can take. It's more of a risk, but he can go up there, and they've been trying it. And what we've taken away is that back pass to a keeper where you see him standing up on the 40-meter line, soloing to himself and no one around him. So that option is gone, but we're still keeping the creative side. That's where we try to get the balance to, like, the keeper can solo out, he can get intercepts, he can do whatever, all that kind of stuff is still there. So when you go through that with them and they play the game, they seem happy enough.
Okay, you got to be brave enough. If you're going to do it, into the other half and do it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, God, I mean, it's very exciting. Mike's going to roll his eyes. I have another negative question, if that's all right. I'm just wondering.
You're not going to bring him into your coaching team, Mike. That's your next stint.
Listen, I love how naive and idealistic you two are. We're going to good conversation in a year, and you can both apologise. I'm asking this one, James, as much with the club game in mind, I suppose, as the elite, where markings on pitches are pristine and visible, and referees are fit, and there's just a higher level. With things like kick-outs must go beyond the 40-metre arc, the 2 points from outside the 40-metre arc, the advanced mark where a kick pass from outside 45 metres is caught inside 20. I'm a referee there. I'm thinking, thanks, mate.
Oh yeah, of course it's valid. And again, we've met with the refs committee multiple times. We've had various discussions with them. We've had a lot of refs in for we've had intercounty refs in for the sandbox games. And sat down with them, and they've been in a lot of the rollouts that we've done. So we've had a huge. There's obviously an impact, for sure. And again, let's see what the weekend brings and goes through it. And there's still discussions to be had about the club game for next year and that kind of thing, and if the clubs will be ready. So all that discussion is to be had. But I suppose one thing I would say is that the halfway line. So we brought in a halfway line. There was no halfway line in Gaelic. There was 2 dashes for the throw in. So that which is gas, but so that's going to be a dash line across the middle of the field. So if you put yourself as a ref, that's going to help you significantly for the 3v3, and it's going to help you for the goalkeeper's position. When he comes out, if you're standing around, say, the 50-meter line, you're going to be able to see that halfway line. And, if it's kick out from the other side, you're going to be close enough to the arc as well. So there's going to be more demands on refs for sure. Their positional sense on where they are as well will help. And what we found in a lot of the games is that, if you go down to a game in West Kerry, Mike, there's a lot of players that ref it as well. Oh, he's outside the arc, or whatever it is, and that can give an instinctive support to a ref, that kind of stuff. So, look, there is going to be challenges on ref. Hopefully, it's possible, but we'll have to see how that plays out. We've had, as I said, a lot of the top intercounty refs in, and they've loved it. They picked it with David Gold again very early, and he picked it up and refed it brilliantly and gave us some great feedback on where we need to go with it. So very conscious of that, and a lot more to do in it for sure, Tom.
No, it's true.
I have an unhappy groundsman down here too. I'm the G officer below in Kerry campus, and he was asking, his first question was, no, what happens if we've got a Sigerson game on a Wednesday? He said, and I have a ladies football game on a Thursday. What am I supposed to do with the lines on the field each other?
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
I said, no, Paul, we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it.
I'll get him some of the vanishing foam.
That's the kind of negative thinking I can get on board with. That's exactly what I'm after.
You can get behind that kind of thinking.
Yeah. Give us a final word then, fellas. Mike, you're buoyed by this. You're looking forward to this. You've no other questions or concerns or anything that you want to raise?
I'm just looking forward to having a look how this plays out, and I'm hoping that everybody embraces it for the positivity, the potential positivity that can be unlocked with it, as opposed to the more pessimistic view of yourself. I just think it's a really progressive step that the game needs, lads. Like, there is no question that this committee has done the work that the people and supporters and players and coaches who are involved with Gaelic football for the last number of years, we've been crying out for it, because this gives everybody a new set of tools to be able to go and make that game what she set out to make it, which was more entertaining or whatever it is. Just really looking forward to it with eagerness,
James, big weekend. Obviously, it's a lot of pressure on just 4 games, small sample size, and they'll go a long way towards swaying public opinion, which will in turn sway Congress to a point. So it's kind of nervy enough, I would think. You're about to birth your plan.
Yeah, but I think the caliber of players that you have and the way they've embraced it so far in the trials, I think we'll see a very entertaining spectacle at the weekend, and it may help people understand it. One other thing, Joe, just on, I think that's really important. In the interim report, again, there's a recommendation that there's an intelligence unit set up, so that there's a group of people that constantly evaluate Gaelic football. So that they'd obviously meet on a monthly basis or whatever, and review the trends in the game and where it is and how the games went over the weekend, and the refs and whatever trends, adverse or positive, that they are. And that there's a group that constantly monitor that to see, because we put in a lot of rules because it's been left for a while. So if we've something that monitors us ongoing, that we mightn't have to, hopefully a lot of these will work, and there's only little tweaks that'll need to be done every now and then, as opposed to the seismic change that we're doing. But look, overall, really looking forward to the weekend, and see what comes of it, and continue the work.
Great, awesome. First time I've spoken to you two together. A real alignment of mind and vision here. Would you go in as the Derry setup, or what do you think?
That's a fair old spin from Kerry, Mike, is it?
A bit far.
Good mileage, Mike. Mike, good mileage.
Good mileage. See, Joe, I was just, when he was talking about the intelligence committee there of people who were going to review the game, I was saying, please don't nominate Joe anyway, because the game will be back to wherever we don't want it to be, Joe. Come on, get on the positive train, Joe.
You're dead right. On a serious note, James, will you ever manage another county?
Oh, God, Not in Connacht, Joe. That's the only thing that we made. I wouldn't manage another Connacht county.
Okay.
Outside that, I haven't thought of anything.
Okay. Interesting. That sounds like a come and get me plea, Mike, to me. I don't know what you make interpret that.
You're just lobbing grenades.
Joe, you're looking too much into stuff, man. Come on.
Yeah.
No. Listen, I really hope it goes well. I think the rules are great. They jump off the page, and it's obvious how much work you've put into it. So fingers crossed, it all goes well. And then there is the mysterious beast that is Congress, and well, we'll leave that for another day. James Horan, thank you. Well done on all the work. Mike Quirke, great to talk to you again. Mike, cheers, fellas.
No bother.
Take care.